I call this meeting to order. Please join me in a pledge of allegiance. Ready? Salute. Pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please call the roll.
Board Member Crowley.
Here.
Board Member Durfee.
Here.
Member Ritter. Here. Board Member Kittelchew.
Here. Way over here.
Board Member Arnold.
Here.
Board Member Goldstein. Here. Board Member Calderon.
Here.
Board Member Pittman.
Here.
Board Member Lazar.
Here. Oh, full house, good job. Next up is our consent agenda. Item 5 had an error and a change. It's right here in front of you in writing. Would anyone up here like to pull something from the consent agenda? Anybody from the public? Is there any electronic public comment today? Public comment. I'll entertain a motion. Move to adopt. Second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? You go by the item. Nothing was removed. Regular agenda is an item for action. Number 6, approval of resolution, BCAG final 25-26 overall work program and budget. Andy.
Morning, Board. This is a follow-up from the item we brought in March, which was our draft item. No substantial changes, just a couple of comments. All the items, work elements that we're working on are remaining the same. 2 particular items, we had a review from Caltrans, FTA, FHWA. They forwarded comments back. Most of the comments that they wanted us to incorporate were in some additional definitions, largely of funding programs and agreement numbers. So nothing really substantial beyond just some, looks like mostly just additional clarification of things. They always come back with some things to add. We did also include in the final work program a review, triennial review that they do every 3 years. All of the grant funding that we have spent on the various projects in the previous 3-year period. And I included that in the OWP as well, just to show that we took our review. They had some questions initially, had identified what they call deficiencies, for which we had some follow-up and provided all the documentation needed to address those deficiencies. So it was a little bit of a struggle, the review that we had with them. There was a lot of turnover at FTA at that time, so much of the documentation we submitted during the review process either didn't get to the right people or didn't get transitioned over to new representatives. So rather lengthy process to continue providing information for them. But in the end, we got a clean sweep on it. So I included that in the OWP. And then our total budget number has gone down from the draft by $500,000, and that where that is goes up in the revenues towards the bottom of the sheet in the Transit Intercity Rail Capital Improvement Program and Zero Emissions Transit Capital. RCIP and ZTIP, I had $1.5 million in there, largely to cover pushing the hydrogen bus project and fueling station farther ahead. Found that back a little bit. That was a little aggressive, 1.5. I think that number is really closer. That's really the change in what in there in terms of a reasonable number that I think we had. So that's the only really big changes from the original draft. Again, we have a full-time staff of 12 people, 11 full-time, 1 part-time, and I will be recruiting to bring on a project manager to be in front of some of these technology changes. Any capital projects that take on behalf of cooperation with the state will. That will directly help me doing a lot of that still. Aside from that, there really are no other changes. Or does anyone have any questions about what we're working on or
you answered the one question about the new staff member. That's great. I wasn't here last meeting, so I apologize if I'm asking the same question. Obviously, there's federal funds in here that, a somewhat large part of our revenues. Any idea whether those will come to fruition? Will they be cut? Are they guaranteed?
I think that the safe answer is nothing is guaranteed based on, I think, what we're all hearing. But all existing agreements that we have in place for funding, and I think that's also holds true for all the jurisdictions, agreements that are in place, have funding, and are being expended against, are going to be fine. Any competitive grants that are in that haven't started yet, for all of us, are subject to some level of scrutiny as to whether or not that program funded. There is a lot less talk about heisting of funds now to the programs that we are all involved with, but at the transportation level. There is one particular issue which could be very difficult, and this is largely what Ferguson Group is going to do for us. This is kind of the charge that I've put to them, is you really need to keep their ear to the ground on the reauthorization of the transportation bill, which is going to be on July 1, 2026. And that, at that time, beginning now, when they start to look at all of the funding programs in the transportation bill, it is possible that they may either eliminate or significantly reduce what is a pretty large source of our funding, which is PL, federal planning dollars. They haven't said they're going to do it. There is a little bit talk of doing it. That would be hard, but we won't see that happen. That would be in the 26-27 budget that we're talking about. But I did, in talking with the Ferguson Group and Christy Moore, representative thereof, I pretty much said, you need to tell me, whenever you hear anything going in that direction, we need to know, and if there is a lobbying effort to be put forth, so sure that those funds are, if they're going to trim them, okay, I get it, maybe you need to do some trimming, but complete elimination, what comes with it is any elimination of largely everything we do on the federal side. We would not be able to fund those things with the state sources. Having said that, if the federal funds, the federal planning funds do get significant trim, we're one of the few organizations in the state that probably have enough or a substantial line of state funding that could help us continue to operate. So at this time, I have no problems, but I may be coming back to you in fall or first part of next year to state it.
Andy, I don't know if you saw this morning's news, but the DOT Secretary Duffy warned blue states that they need to comply with the executive orders, or he'll hold funding for transportation. This came up this morning, so that puts in jeopardy what you just put on.
That could be a problem. And actually, where I see that maybe being a bigger problem is for the local jurisdictions, streets, roads, bridges, that type of stuff. The county has a lot of bridges. If there's some level of target for the RO program,
Got a new one.
then that would be for us. That may trickle down for us, but for the most part, the state in California, the state funds a lot of transportation. With hopefully that doesn't.
Yeah.
Hopefully that doesn't hurt us as much as that could. Yeah.
The project manager that you have on for the one FTE, is that specifically the IT position that's listed in? No, it's not.
I had an IT position identified for last budget year, and we have consultant IT management, and the time that I put that in, I was feeling like we probably need someone on staff. But the relationship has been good, but better than that, we just have gotten in a group with, so the consultant, so
So the plan isn't to grow.
no IT person. It's the project manager position is strictly for developing, capital projects, helping to turn over, transit capital type projects, identifying and kind of following through with this hydrogen program, even the zero emissions, the electric buses. But what comes with that zero emission stuff is just a different way of thinking, problems and solutions, a project management type.
Yeah, and Andy, one of the things that we're all looking at is having some policies toward AI, how it comes to your organization and how it shall be used, because it's kind of voluntary out there right now, but it's becoming a big factor to every agency. In the city, we're actually having trainings for all the troops to understand how it can be used in their organization. And I don't know if you have a policy for that, but down the road, you're going to probably need to have something in that to affecting that issue.
Yeah, that's actually a good point. I mean, I've thought about how is it useful, but I haven't gone so far as to think about that aspect. That's a good idea.
But there's a lot of different forums up and down the League of Cities and whatnot. And I think every agency needs to get ahead of it before it comes in and causes problems you can't even imagine yet.
Right.
So,
Right.
something to look at, and probably on a consultant basis. There are some good trainers here in Butte County that we've been aware of, so something to put on your task list.
Any other questions or comments? Any public comment on this matter? Entertain a motion.
Move to approve?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So the people that teach artificial intelligence, are they? Just wanna know.
Tough question.
Butte Regional Transit Staff Service and Budget, Julie.
Oh, sorry.
I can talk about it. My name is on there.
We might have a tag team. with it.
You wanna pull up the,
But you're entertaining.
I know. Yeah, this is the draft budget, and we took it to the TAOC on March 5th. We do that every year. We meet with the, representatives from all the cities in the county to discuss transit goals and, the service and the budget. And so this year, show me the numbers if you've got them.
Fill the numbers and I'll go with
Okay, perfect. So, the budget this year is a modest 3.7% increase. We have a contract with TransDev that increases every year. It's a 10-year contract, and it's generally a 3 to 5% increase year over year. So that's kind of the major stuff that happened. We've had some, this is where you see the reduction of the IT staff as a reduction. We've got some reductions in facility maintenance. We made some better decisions, contract decisions on cleaning the building. But the largest increase is due to the purchase transportation and the facility, the fleet insurance, which is part of the TransDev contract. So the fares, we always take a stab at what we think is going to happen there. Even though we're in the third quarter, or we just finished the third quarter, and we're going to begin to analyze what happened with the fare increase that we had, and we might be able to come back in the final draft and be able to increase what fares are being applied to this. The more fares we get, the less TDA and federal revenue get applied. It kind of gets applied in a line. So federal funding, we're starting to lose some of that COVID funding that we had a few years back. So you're seeing the federal funding go down. And as the federal funding goes down, the TDA state funding steps in to cover the difference. And so now we're kind of getting back to the percentages that we would have had in years past. Any questions?
you're, projecting increases in fares and paratransit fares. Is that because we haven't increased our charge? We have.
We did, we just increased it in, January.
Okay, so that's based on increased fares, not increased ridership.
Well, both.
Okay.
But we've been seeing an increase in ridership as well. We're still not at the levels we were at
Right.
before COVID, and we're kind of creeping back up there, especially in the paratransit services. We're getting more and more service there. But yes, this also incorporates what we think might happen with the fares, and that's why it'll be really good when I bring the final budget back. We'll have a better idea of what happened in that first quarter when we increased the fares. Yeah.
Make one comment on line item number 4 under administration, the public outreach item. In the green, about $100,000. That includes our funding for marketing as well for the new program. Services we're laying out, the new branding that we're doing. And we're actually going to be working on that today to line that out even a little tighter to identify where we're going to actually. And then regarding the actual services themselves, we have launched a couple of new technology services. We have increased our headways on Route 8, Route 5 on 8th Street. And also we've serviced down to Biggs and Gridley. We have a two-way service now, so there's a morning run. It was just leaving Gridley and Biggs coming this way. Simultaneously started a run from Chico to that direction, so double there. And then we are going to be starting the intercity paratransit service by 1. So that's the service where you don't have to go through the fixed route system. Ride paratransit dial ride from Paradise to Orville, you can go from Orville, or vice versa, rather than Paradise through Chico to Orville. So those are a couple of service changes, and then we have 10 smaller vans coming in through December that will be used for the microtransit service, and also for non-emergency. That's just a couple of services.
Yeah.
That might not be super on topic, but I'm not sure when to ask it. Does the Beeline make revenue?
Yes.
Yeah, there's some,
We have a revenue share with Lamar, who is the advertiser. So we get about 30% of the revenue that comes in for the advertising. That is about $60,000 a year. It's probably going to go up a little bit because there's several people that want to do full wraps of buses, which
I don't like that.
it makes revenue for us for sure, but I am going to limit the number of buses that actually, because it distracts from the branding that we're going to need. So I've been talking with Lamar about that and indicated to them, hey, we're going to be doing a new rebrand, and I really don't want the advertising to cover that. And they are completely on board. So you do get revenue.
Asking that partly because I know some of our buses have new ones, and they have a fresh new look.
Yeah.
And also for the rider experience, like, less pleasant when you're looking through a grid of advertisement.
Yeah.
So, okay, good to know that you're conscious of that.
It's just, they make good revenue, so I kind of want to allow a little bit of it. Not too much.
Other questions? Thank you very much. Update, state SB 375, Chris.
Yeah, thank you. Good morning. So the efforts to reform Senate Bill 375 are continuing to move forward. You recall that this is what requires us to develop the sustainable community strategy as part of the RTP update every 4 years. And so, at the December meeting, I think we brought some letters that were drafted by all 18 MPOs from around the state to California Air Resources Board, basically indicating that we feel like the legislation needs to be revisited. And so we've been working, there's been working group meetings that have been held between MPOs and CARB. This has been going on for the last year or so, and they haven't been fruitful, so they've been discontinued. CARB seems to feel like their role is to just continue to implement the SB 375 legislation, as it is. So we're moving forward now, working with the California Council of Governments, or CalCog. We're kind of taking the lead on this coordination on behalf of the MPOs to seek legislative change going forward. And so the good news is that we're working with Senator Abaldon and his staff on Senate Bill 486, and there's a possibility that we'll be able to use this draft bill to introduce new language that'll hopefully lead to reform of SB 375. So he's indicated a willingness to take that on as well as his staff. And so we've included as attachment 1 sort of a framework document that the big 4 MPOs put together. And this might form kind of the basis for legislative change. The other MPOs like BCAG, we've submitted comments sort of to expand upon that framework through our meetings. And so there's a potential this is going to move forward. And we think it's a good positive thing. I think we've expressed to the board in the past, kind of the troubles of developing these sustainable community strategies. A lot of improvement that can be made. So we're hopeful that Senator Abaldon, moves forward with this. So it's posted at future meetings. This moves forward.
I want to add a little something to that. Supervisor Ritter brought up the coordination with CAPCOA on this topic, and so Steve Earle and I contacted him, and we put the executive directors for both CAPCOA and CalCog, open the door for them to kind of talk about that. There are different missions that we have, but what we do have similar issues with. So we made that connection, and where that goes.
Any other questions, comments?
You're up again, Chris. You're gonna update us on sustainable community strategy approval.
Yes. I think the board recalls in December, we approved the final 2024 BCAG SCS. We're required to submit that to CARB, California Air Resources Board, thereafter. So in January, we submitted the final plan along with a bunch of submittal documents that are required as part of this package that we submitted. And, CARB has statutory obligation to review those documents within 60 days and let the MPO know whether it's been accepted or rejected. CARB tends to not adhere to those guidelines. We're aware of that. They have a history of not doing that. So we did hear back in February, basically they looked over what we sent, said, hey, everything's complete, and we should get the final decision to you by May 9th. Of course, it isn't within 60 days. So we're yet to hear a decision from CARB. We did hear from them earlier this month, and they wanted some clarification on one of the strategies that we had in the SCS, and we had a meeting with them on Zoom, and we provided information to them, and haven't heard back, so a little waiting, kind of word on that. Things do tend to drag out, so we'll let you know at the May board meeting, what we've heard. We're hopeful that they can approve that. We can just move on. Actually, already getting ready to start the update process for the 2028 SCS. 3 to 4 years to develop. Figures are constantly in the process of developing them. So we don't want to have to go back and make changes to 2024 when we're ready to move forward. That's sort of the update.
Questions? Go to number 10, regional transit branding.
Yeah, so I wanted to bring to the board a little bit of hopefully this is a little bit of a fun thing, I guess. So our transit branding, our Transit Happy is the name of our consultant. I see that Selena was on earlier. That she's on now. She's one of the consultant reps. So we've been spending a fair amount of time going over some ideas with them. They've brought forth several ideas, and we have it narrowed down to these three particular things that we here at the staff level and also the consultants think look like pretty good options. So I wanted to show the board kind of what we're thinking. I can tell you now that we're kind of leaning towards that B line in the upper right-hand corner, largely because it looks pretty good on the buses themselves in terms of what we're thinking. These particular sub-brands that you see with the Beeline Flex, Link, and Plus, those would be our sub-brands that would apply to the various types of services that we do. So fixed route would be the Beeline, Link would be a service to, say, Chico, intercity service, Chico to Sacramento. The Plus being our paratransit 88 ride, and our Flex being the microtransit. So this is kind of we've narrowed this down. This is not the final version, but these are kind of the lanes we're going in to keep refining with the colors, with the shape, with the font, with all of that, so that it comes together and works for something that we think represents what we're trying to accomplish. So these are our main identifiers, and then I wanted to include some various options on what that potential color combinations look like on the buses themselves. So we have various color combinations that we're thinking of: the light blue, the dark blue, white. What seems to be very popular in all of our minds is that the logo is utilized as a wrap across the entire back of the bus. And then we've got some green options too. So we're kind of going in multiple directions here, but we're getting a lot closer to zeroing in on something that might really work for the system. And our electric buses are here, and I have one out back. Would have their own specific theme. So anyway, just kind of wanted to show the board where we were going with that, and so you can see what we're kind of thinking in the direction we're moving. So if all goes well, and I don't know if I see Selena's on now, and I don't know if Selena wants to make any comments or not, then hopefully we would zero in on something and start to transition our look, in the fall and winter. Zero in on our color. Selena, do you want to add anything?
I think the only thing I would add is that, we started with a whole lot of options, a lot more than the three you're looking at. And the Beeline team was great about providing input and narrowing it down. And I think the three that they've settled on, any of those three could work wonderfully. But we really do like the one that you're looking at right here with the just the bee with sort of the swoosh going back from it. It has some nice motion. It works really well, making it big on the back of the bus and could be used in the background of graphics and things. So we think they've made good decisions, and we look forward to continuing to work with them.
Thank you, Selena. So anyway, just information for you, and I'll certainly, when we zero in on something better, I'll bring that back and keep on trucking with it. Sure.
I love the teal and the green. Bright colors are great for catching, more simple. I like almost a kind of bushy, but I was thinking about how I have one of your mugs, kind of a similar logo with the bushy bee, but it's now, I think, more flat. It would be pretty cool if there was perhaps also like a design that incorporates the logo. I don't know, maybe I'm getting ahead of myself. I'll draw it up. Just kidding. Also, we have a rough map that I already mentioned. There's lots of you, but that looks pretty cool to be on the back.
Yeah, part of what we need to really figure out too is paint versus wrap. So that's a big consideration, particularly if we're gonna accommodate some advertising between the wells down low. Vinyl over vinyl can be difficult, so that's an element of it too, depending how much paint.
I would point out that all of these apps were, there was an option that was presented that had the back windows clear so that they weren't covered with color and with the logo, but it just looks better if you have that completed logo and it's in a break.
I like the landscape design the best, and if you scroll up a little bit, you can see with the second two back, you can't really tell what it is because of the wheels. So the first one you can see is a landscape, but the second two, if you're looking at the back of the bus, it doesn't look like a logo, it's just color. And I also like the larger gap between E and line, otherwise I feel like it's blind.
That's good. Selena's taking notes.
I'll be that person. I'm a Henry Ford kind of guy, maybe because I'm old, but you can have it any color but black. I'm not saying you should be black here, but I like simplicity because I think a lot of this fancy stuff gets dated super fast. Just like home decor, it's out in 5 years. You know, I really believe that any amount of money we can get from advertising is important. So all the extra bits that are in the place where advertising would go, I'd rather have just a straight color, white or blue. I don't know, you know, that's just my opinion.
Yeah, no, that's why we brought it forward.
Well, too, I like the Flex, Link, and Plus identifiers too, because 85% of our learning is visual. They see that on the bus, they'll get comfortable, that's the right one they're supposed to be on. So I think that's a good identifier. Really helps people because, they're all visual now. They don't want to read text, they just want to see the visuals.
Well, it's the team we have working with us brought forth so many different combinations, much more combinations than I ever would have thought of. So they're really good about asking the right questions. We answer the questions and they come back with some good stuff that seems to make good sense and color comments. So hopefully we're gonna zero in on something and be making that transition sooner versus later.
Really, I like the landscape. Does it imply View County view? Is it like there's a hill and a river? Is that kind of? It's a view. I know it's beautiful, but.
Mountains
Should be kind of like.
mountains to the river.
Okay, yeah, I see it on the flat image now. Okay. That would be cool with that.
So that's all I had for that one.
You know we're coming.
Electric bus.
Okay, so our 5 electric buses have arrived.
Put cards on them, you know, like we used to have on our bicycle spokes, so you can hear them coming.
Yeah. Don't get run over.
Oh, they're so quiet, they're sneaky.
Yeah, they are. Yeah, so they are here. There is one out back. I had them roll one over. If anyone is interested, you do not have to go look at it if you don't want to. They largely look the same as these. They have a higher side profile. There's a fair amount of plumbing and fan cooling on the top of them. So we have been in contact with Public Works maintenance for the city of Chico, particularly for a couple of locations around town that are hanging a little low.
Yeah.
That our existing buses are running into, particularly on the frontage for the Esplanade. That's kind of a tough one. But I've got communication going with Eric over there, and they're going to move around and pick stuff off for it. So electric buses won't be in service until probably August, maybe September. We're still waiting for one switch panel in our power block out here that's been delayed for about 1.5 years. And so once that's installed, we'll be able to turn the chargers on, and we'll be able to fully charge them. So we're gonna go ahead and work on our training anyway on driving them. We have a portable charger that we can do that with, so next few months to train on it.
Can we all, get a chance driving the bus?
Yeah, you know how to drive a bus?
But it seems like it's not.
I think there's a little more to it than we, particularly the electric ones. To that there.
Well, we still have a bus driver shortage, it seems.
Yeah, you don't volunteer at a time.
Side hustle. So anyway, that's all I had for that.
Can I ask a bus-related question that's not on the agenda?
Yep.
How is it going with the or non-cash?
We are still seeing largely the same amount of cash on board the vehicles, and I actually, but we are also seeing an increase in token transfers. Those deposits are coming in higher than they were before, so people are responding to that, and I think what we're seeing is less people buying paper. I did speak with a couple other agencies that have already made a switch over to, away from GenFare and towards Diamond Fare Box and token transit specifically. And what they noticed was actually an uptick in the people using cash on board the vehicle as those became the only two options. So they're split 60% token transit, 80% cash. We are still at 17% cash collection on board.
Diamond Fare Box, we'll keep our cash boxes. Which is what we wanted to know. Until you try it, you don't know.
How was ridership on Tuesday?
I actually I do not know. We did speak with some of the bus drivers when we were at Earth Day at Chico State on Tuesday, and they said that ridership seemed to be pretty good. But the data for JetFare gets probed at the end of the day, and if it's a free fare day, the maintenance crew doesn't probe, so I won't know until today.
And I don't know if it's internal or external that you're doing the texting, but I thought that was great. It was like, BCAG bus lines are gonna be free on Tuesday for Earth Day. Texting? Yeah, I got a text. It was like, no, from you.
It might have been from another agency. It might have been
Okay.
from another.
This isn't on the agenda, so I'm gonna move on. You guys can talk about it after I adjourn. All right, here we go. Anybody from, wanna say anything from the floor? You know, there, we're adjourned till May 22nd, 2025.
I have something.
You can say whatever you want.
That's okay, no worries. I was just gonna make a comment about the electric.
Yeah.
Have any of the board members ever ridden on an electric bus yet? Yeah. So I actually did, Sonoma County has, several electric buses, and I was, able to ride one a few months ago. And I actually didn't know it was an electric bus until I talked to the bus driver. That's how similar it is to a regular. So it's not the silent killer that we all think.
I'm telling you, I announced a parade,
There's school.
I announced a little parade, and when the electric bus comes, you gotta be looking, you don't hear it.
Okay, well, I just wanted to share my experience that when I was driving around on it, I couldn't even tell really.
I rode a bus.
I want to say that the new, website looks great. Who's in charge of the website?
Oh, 211 also?
Huh?